Today, I want to take you all back in time to the beginnings of a little project that would one day become the animal well we all know and love. This includes the evolution of different in-game areas, cut content, and some other interesting tidbits I found when searching the internet for clips and screenshots. Generally, there are two main differences between the present and past versions of the game. There was a lot more text and a lot more spikes. And yeah, personally I am glad that the finished version of the game isn't quite as pointy. There are definitely some rooms and animals that don't exist in the well anymore, gone but not forgotten, and some puzzle ideas and area layouts that just look a little bit different. Now, what if I told you that you could actually travel back in time and play an earlier version of the game? Well, you actually can download a fully playable version from 2022 using SteamDB's depot system. I heard about this one through Fury's stream of the pre-alpha 0.8 version, although I haven't tried it out myself. Just make sure you look up a few tutorials and back up your saves before playing it so you don't lose any progress in your main playthrough. Or just watch through his video, which I've linked below, and you'll spot a bunch of very interesting differences. But for now, I want to take you all the way back to 2017 for these first few, which I believe are the first public posts about the game. And wow, this is definitely Animal Well, if it took place in a graveyard, I guess. You can already feel the eeriness Billy was going for. Ladders, chests, candles, bricks, it's all there, just a little bit rougher around the edges. This first ever post had the caption, "Little game I'm making where one of the things you do is light candles." And I love to see that this mechanic stuck around and is actually a pretty important part of the main game. It's also probably where the idea for having 4 flames came from too. And even though this isn't directly from Animal Well, it is related and pretty interesting, so I'm including it here. Travel Mouse. In Billy's prototype demo footage from 2012, the playable character in his game looks suspiciously similar to these guys. They have recently been confirmed to be eyes and not mice like in this video, but I think it's safe to say that these guys are cut from the same cloth. However, eyes are not rodents, rather small lemurs native to Madagascar. But they do have rodent-like teeth that never stop growing, and a special thin middle finger that they can use to catch grubs and larvae out of tree trunks. Alright, let's look at 2 very important rooms in the game and how they've changed over time, the Flame Room and the Egg Room. In the earliest version of the game, the 4 Flame Guardian statues were just 4 identical pugs, which does look quite silly. I'm wondering if these were actually placeholders until the final animals were decided upon, or if this was just supposed to be a regular old room that had nothing to do with the flames. Later on, when the Guardians were added, there was a giraffe and a walrus in place of the seahorse and ghost dog, which I guess solves the mystery of this random giraffe statue that I've always wondered about. And even after this was changed, the telephone was still in the middle of the room and slightly raised by 1 block, and then it was finally moved over to the left in the 2022 gameplay trailer. Now I couldn't find any early footage of it, but the egg room used to have space for way less eggs, 32 by the looks of it. It also only had 2 doors instead of 4. I can just imagine that Billy was having so much fun designing all the egg puzzles that he accidentally ended up doubling the amount of them hidden in the game. Also, the lighting and fluid sims really do take center stage here and completely transform the feel of this area, making it more mysterious and magical. Alright, now for a look at the map and UI. There used to be just a lot more going on down at the bottom of the screen, which does get a bit cluttered once you've collected a few items because it does display every single one that you've got. Your hearts were also a lot bigger in the 2019 prototype trailer compared to the 2020 pre-alpha trailer. Also, the egg became very pointy for a little while there. Both these trailers, by the way, are unlisted on YouTube, but I've included links for these as well down below. As for the map, it just wasn't very nice to look at compared to what we have now, but it does have a key in the bottom right, which is interesting that's not included in the final version. Another thing that's changed is the way you actually acquire it. In the current version, all you have to do is open this chest to get the base map and then slowly fill it in by traveling to each and every room. But here you can see what looks like map pieces to collect, maybe one for each different colored area, something like buying maps from Cornifer in Hollow Knight. And now for some other rooms that have gone through changes during development. The starting room used to have 2 or even 3 big flowers in it. Kinda just looks like background decoration to me, but maybe Billy thought they'd be too distracting or lead people to believe that there are other blobs just waiting to hatch. This room with the first yellow button puzzle you come across used to have spikes instead of water, which definitely would have made things a lot more frustrating early on for new players. Some tools like the bubble wand and the animal flute were found in pretty different looking areas, although you can see some of the final layout poking through, especially here with the panda platforms, which would later become chinchillas. And then here are a couple other comparisons that I thought were pretty interesting. The groveling toad used to be in this really small pit. The monkeys did always throw poop at you, and some other places are almost the same, just a bit different. This bleached coral room was cut out of the game entirely, and this was actually from one of Billy's earlier posts on Twitter. It's a very nice vibe in there. You've also probably noticed some unused animals that don't show up in the fully released version of the game. Most notably these gophers in place of the chinchillas in quite a few spots. Maybe they turned into these blue armed guards. They kind of look like the same animal. I never could tell what exactly they were supposed to be. Then there's the pandas, which you can actually still find in the current version of Animal Well when traveling through the pipes, if you know where to look. This little guy, which you may recognize if you know anything about the Wingdings puzzles. The sloths were cut out completely, and this room was most likely turned into the capybara save room based on its heart shape. At one point, there were 3 ostriches in the same room, which is just awful, and an earlier version of the bird's animations, which are very well done despite being extremely creepy. Finally, we have the floppy-eared rabbit, who's appeared in multiple different spots, always saying something very concerning to the blob. I wonder if they were replaced by the squirrel later on and were intended to be a sort of guide for the player. I don't know, I'm honestly glad that they didn't make it into the full game. And that's all I got for you today, so thank you very much for stopping by and being so supportive of all my Animal Well videos. More are on the way, but in the meantime, feel free to browse through these.